let's look at Friday in the NBA. It's a day that we're going to be really careful of. There are 8 games on. There are going to be weird back-to-backs, weird situations with bad teams against bad teams. But of course, the one constant is Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On... Oh, what? That sounded weird. Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and power lines are a reminder of man's ability to generate electricity. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and you will find the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. That is LockedOnDaily.com. Sign up over there. Also, checking out the audio video of this podcast. Double banging, commenting, sharing, all of that stuff. You share, you care. All right, it is National Cereal Day on Friday. Here's a question. What's your favorite cereal? Or is cereal bad? I don't like cereal. I don't eat cereal. I know. I'm not a big breakfast guy. Eggs in the bin. Cereal? Not really. No, I will occasionally. Sometimes I'll have oats. Very specific on what I have with my oats. I just don't like cereal. It's just boring. Plain milk? Disgusting, obviously. Clearly. Cereal's just boring. What's the point of it? I'd rather have a full breakfast. I'd rather have pancakes, waffles, bacon, Asian breakfasts are a W as well. Cereal, it's just boring, man. What's the point? Also, just don't eat breakfast as a general rule. But what's your favorite cereal? Don't tell me it's like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, a Pop-Tart. Anyway, let's talk fantasy. Let's talk the games on Friday. How many have we got on? 8 of them. Standard start time, 7 p.m. Eastern, so that's a W. We don't have to adjust things there. Let's take a look at some schedule-based stuff that we need to pay attention to as we get into it in terms of some back-to-backs. And we've got one team heading into Friday on a back-to-back. That is, of course, the New York Knickerbockers. They're the only team that does that. There are 3 teams that play a Friday, Saturday back-to-back. And that is a key moment for us to figure out how we're streaming or who we're streaming in there. We're talking Hornets, Heat, and Raptors. And the problem there is that you've got the Hornets and the Heat, and we are getting guys ruled out. Some of them have just been ruled out for both of those terrible teams. The Heat have obviously just got a bunch of injuries themselves, so we'll talk about those when we get to it. But there are those 2 teams, Hornets and Raptors. In particular, Toronto, it's going to be a bit of a mess because of, A, it's a back-to-back, and B, I think they're playing Utah, aren't they? Yeah, that's who they're playing. So yeah, just that game is going to be just... And actually, you know what? I'm glad that they are ruling guys out already, because what they did last game was embarrassing. You can have embarrassment in problems with players, teams sitting players who have got nothing to play for, and I understand that. I'm also just like, we're at this point of the season, I'm not that worried about these bad teams doing that as much. It's more the in-game nonsense that we saw from Toronto, which I thought was disgusting, honestly. Toronto does play Utah, and then their back-to-back is Toronto, Washington, then Philly, then Utah, then Portland, then Phoenix. Oh my God. What is that stretch of games? Jesus Christ. They've got the easiest schedule I've ever seen in my life, and they're going to try and lose every one of them. They won't succeed, but that is going to be unbelievable. Let's get chunky. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are the next 5 days, because that's how a calendar works. It actually repeats every 7 days. The days just repeat themselves. We're going to start Friday, but remember, Monday's a 12-game day. That is not a streaming day for nearly anybody. It's not a streaming day, unless you go like 13 starters, 3 bench or something. A 12-game day is not a streamable day. So we're looking at who plays 3 games that does not include Monday. And there are some teams. One of them is the LA Clippers. They've got an unbelievably good schedule next week. They play 4 games next week, not including Monday. And they've got 3 games in this chunk. So Chris Dunn is a good option for us. The Cleveland Cavaliers and Milk Jerome will be a good 3-game in 5-night stream that avoids Monday. So Ty Jerome. The Pelicans, yes, they've got 3 games in 4 nights starting Thursday through to Sunday, but also Friday through to Tuesday next week, they've got 3 games on the 4 quality game day. So really strong Pelicans schedule, And you got a back-to-back on the weekend. So Zion, Olynyk, Brown, and McCollum. I assume all of those guys play one of the two games. So Jose Alvarado, Carlo Matkovic, Yves Misi, all have got a little bit of a boost in value. This is what we talk about when people ask, do I add this guy or drop this guy or hold this guy, whatever, right? But when we get to these sort of situations, that is when you focus on those players. Holding guys like that from Monday, awaiting a 3-game in 4-night period at the end of the week is an L because you lose out the value earlier in the week. So you're eliminating the advantage you gain by having a positive schedule at the end of the week if you just hold on to guys like Matkovic or Misi or Alvarado who are producing top 190 value, whatever. I don't know why I chose 190. That value gets eliminated if you hold them through when the schedule's not good, waiting for the good schedule at the end, because it's all well and good to go, oh, look how good my schedule is now, but you've just missed out on all this stuff earlier on. But now we're in the situation where there's going to be a lot of these guys available. The other name on that list is Max Strus. So we're talking Clippers, Cavs, Pelicans as good options here with some solid enough stream guys. Of course, if you're talking Cavs, you can look at DeAndre Hunter in that list as well. And the Cavs have got some games where they're going to be resting some players as well, which is going to open stuff up. But this is, if you're looking to really preserve moves, not follow the streaming plan that I set out because your league sets up differently, you're in Roto or whatever you're doing, this is a little chunky value period that we've got. The Cavs play the Hornets on Friday, and then they've got the Nets on Tuesday. So just got to be a little cautious for the big names there, but that helps Milk, it helps Strus, it helps Hunter, it helps Merrill, it helps Wade, it helps Okoro through those little periods of time. Let's go on to looking at some injury statuses. No one's got a 5 or 2 coming up in the next 7 days either. We've got quite a few injuries to pay attention to. And just as I've recorded this, we did get some updates from the Hornets. So I was curious about whether LaMelo Ball would play. He is probable. They're calling it an illness. Okay. Josh Green also with an illness. All right. Nurkic probable with a back issue. Okay. But Mark Williams is rested. Well, he's out on the back-to-back. So this is the first of a back-to-back. So I'm going to guess that LaMelo plays on Friday and sits on Saturday, and Williams plays on Friday. Plays on Saturday, sits on Friday. That would be my guess. The Cavs rests. Again, it's against Charlotte. I do believe that Darius Garland is a chance to rest. I don't know that he will, but I believe Darius Garland is a chance to rest. Now, Utah, we just got the injury report. Lauri Markkanen is out. Jordan Clarkson is out. John Collins is out. But Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton are in. So that reduces your Kyle Filipowski, KJ Martin, Bryce Sensabaugh, Johnny Juzang value. Not to say they don't have value, it just reduces their value down. Keontae George is questionable as well. So they've gone half-ass in this one. Toronto is the other team in that matchup against Utah. And what I said, they've already ruled guys out. RJ Barrett is resting. Ochai Abaji's out. John Mobo is out. Jakob Poeltl is out. And I expect there'll be limited minutes for Quickly and Barnes. And I'm almost certain now that Quickly will sit on Saturday and Barnes will sit on Saturday. Almost 100% certain that that's the way they're going to go about that. Dallas is the other interesting thing here to have a look at because obviously they've got everyone out. So we need to see what happens with someone like PJ Washington and Kai Jones, who both missed the last game, because their statuses, along with Caleb Martin, determines a lot. If they're all out, then you're going to get more for someone like Dwight Powell. You're going to get Brandon Williams having to play. We need to check on Dante Exum, who I don't think will play, but I also don't know. All of these things are very much up in the air, and it's going to impact the way that we view these guys. So, like, if Exum is in, that really limits what Brandon Williams can do. If PJ is out, but Kai plays, that's huge for Kai Jones. But if they're both out, then Dwight Powell gets a boost in that spot, and we get Kessler Edwards and Olivier Maxence-Prosper to do a little bit more in those areas. But it's just, we don't know. For the Grizzlies, Ja Morant said after the game, last game, he said, yeah, I shouldn't have played. My shoulder is done. Okay, that's great. You did play. You lost. That, to me, suggests we are just going to get multiple Ja Morant games off coming up. And I don't know if it's going to be all in a row. I don't know how it's going to be done. But I do know that Ja Morant's just not going to play all these games. It's very, very clear to me. Santi Aldama missed the last game with a calf soreness. I wonder if they will, they'll update him and give him a calf strain at any point. But obviously, him being in or out impacts the projections there as well. Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso in Oklahoma City. If they are out, it impacts guys like Wiggins and Wallace and Dort and Pig Williams. So we need to check on the statuses of those guys. Jeremy Grant, will he play a game in March? Is it possible? I don't know. I'm gonna put my projections for them with him being doubtful, and the same with Denny Avdia, who aggravated his quad issue. I am certain that Denny's not going to play, and that's going to boost your Jabari Walkers, Chris Murrays, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Hendersons, Donnie Klingon, Dwop Reith, all of those guys as players have to shift around their positioning because Denny did leave the last game, but it wasn't until the second half, so we didn't get to see a full minutes distribution with no Grant and Avdia in that game. Tyler Hero and Andrew Wiggins in Miami, we need to check on their statuses. We know that Superman Khalil Ware has been ruled out already. Alec Burks is also questionable, along with Jaime Jaquez for Miami. Rudy Gobert is questionable. So his presence will impact downstream to the deeper league options like a Terrence Shannon and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and obviously we'll just knock the top a little bit off what Jaden McDaniels and what Naz Reid have been doing. Aaron Gordon in Denver is probably one of the key ones, not necessarily for Gordon himself, a little bit for him, but it impacts deeper leagues and Zeke Naji, but more importantly, it impacts what the hell happens with Russell Westbrook, because Westbrook is thriving with Gordon out, but when Gordon plays, does Westbrook play 27 off the bench and not become useful? Don't know. We need to see that one. Bradley Beal left the last game. He was questionable coming in. He left the last game with calf soreness. They've said that he's questionable. What is actually wrong with this man's calf? What are they doing? Surely it is actually strained. It can't just be every day that he has to leave a game. I don't know what's going on. He practiced, so apparently he's available to play. I don't understand it. So I would go in expecting Beal not to play, but there's no realistic pattern that I can figure out here as to how it makes sense. Malik Monk missed the last game. We know what happens if he is out. Jake LaRavia bumps, but hugely Keon Ellis gets the big advantage there. And theoretically, it should be Keegan Murray doing more, but he got into extreme foul trouble in the last game, and that didn't really pan out. Ben Simmons has missed like 3 in a row now, not necessarily not back-to-back related. Kawhi will return, but Simmons and him being out means Jordan Miller and Drew Eubanks get to do more. If Simmons actually is out, we're not rostering Ben Simmons. And then in New York, the key there is the centers, because at this point, both Precious Achiuwa and Mitchell Robinson are questionable for Thursday's game. Now, why does it matter? Because Robinson definitely won't play both games. So we need to know whether Robinson is in or out on Thursday, and that would mean that Precious Achiuwa plays, because Achiuwa had played 0 minutes when Robinson played. So if you're considering a stream here of what Achiuwa can do, you need to know which day he's going to actually play, and if he's going to be available himself. And at this point, we don't know for Thursday, and we don't know for Friday. Once we get a status of Robinson on Thursday, if Robinson's ruled out on Thursday, we know he plays on Friday. If Robinson plays on Thursday, we know he sits on Friday. And then we've got to see the availability of Achiuwa in that sort of specific spot. And we'll need to keep an eye on that to see where it goes. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. With basketball season getting towards the playoffs, there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks. The best way and the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. It is easy to use. You can do it in over 30 states, and it lets you mix and match your projections across different sports as well. You can go and check your lineups for hockey or basketball, put them all into one individual lineup. You can do it fast as well. In under 60 seconds, you can get a lineup done, and the payouts are also fast. In as little as 15 minutes, you can get your payouts on these projections and your lineups so fast when you win. On Tuesdays as well, Taco Tuesday deals, they offer discounts on select player projections up to 25%, which gives even more value to your lineup. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, we've got to stay tuned for all the other injury updates that do come through for Friday's games, which of course is going to just change the values and availabilities of players. Let's just do some streaming though. Here, talking points leagues, starting with Yahoo points leagues and ESPN points leagues following that. 6 names, various different roster numbers. Number 1 on that list, I do have Naji Marshall. Now that will get boosted. This is assuming that PJ Washington and Kai Jones play. It's assuming that all the questionable guys played. Caleb Martin, Dante X, and PJ Washington, and Kai Jones. So Marshall's value could rise even further. I've got Donovan Klingon there because he's dropped down to 30% rostered on Yahoo, which is the cutoff that I use. Now, I know he's struggled. I know he's not very good. I know that you don't like what you've seen, but last 4 games, you've got 28, 11, 28, 20 in terms of minutes. You get a 28-minute game, easy smash. In points leagues, he is worse than category leagues, absolutely. So I get it. But also, if he is available, you go and stream him in for this day. I got Vince Williams there, and that value would boost even further if Santi Aldama is out. We know Jaren's out. But if Santi is out, Vince will get another start. I think he's going to play 25 minutes irrespective of Santi's availability, honestly. but it just gives a little bit more upside if Aldama is out. So I got Vince there. I'm putting Bryce Sensabaugh on the list. With Markkanen out, with Collins out, with maybe George out, there's a little bit of value in him. Now, the problem is that Sexton is available. Now, I don't think Sexton's going to play big minutes. They're only playing him like 21 minutes a night, and they want to lose again against Toronto. So I think Sensabaugh is worthwhile looking at. I've got Jacoby Walter there, who's going to start in place of Dick, and you've got no Barrett. And what he does is he will attempt shots and he will score. And for Yahoo Points Leagues, that is a very, very good value sort of proposition with good minutes. And the last one there is Nick Smith. Smith's value would rise if LaMelo is out. I don't know that it will. We know that he's going to start. He's going to play 30-plus minutes. He will have some stinking games, but he's got 30-point upside. So I do like that, and he's available like everywhere. Rightfully so, because he's had a lot of bad ones. On ESPN, the list is similar-ish. We've got Naji Marshall at the top. Max Christie does get a bump for me on ESPN just because of the scoring system, so I've put him there at number 2. I've got Vince Williams and Brandon Clark, and the Grizzlies do play, I believe, a good team, so that's not a great sign for Zach Edey, but it does mean it's a better sign for Brandon Clark. I'm just going to double-check who they play. Maybe I'm imagining that. I think they play a good team. Actually, my bad. Sorry. No, they don't. They play a bad team. They play Dallas. Yeah. Maybe that is a good spot for Zach Edey. But still, Brandon Clark will get good value there, just not as good as if it was against a good team. I've got Bryce Sensabaugh on the list as well. Again, there's some iffiness because Sexton is available, but I still think that Sexton will only play 20 minutes. And then you've got Lou Dort as another option there, with my assumption that Alex Caruso is not available or ready to play, which I think is a fair assumption. We'll come back and we'll talk Category League streaming. Today's episode, though, is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, does that mean that it's the end of NBA bets? Of course not. It means the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on that action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can place live bets with FanDuel all throughout the game. So even if you miss that opening tip, you can still keep track of what's happening, evaluate the trends, make your call. Is the team going to come back? Are they going to continue to blow out? Are we going to have a slower pace second half than first half? Make all that, place your bets. You can also combine them into a live same game parlay to increase your payout as well. You can get so easy to do. It's easy to use on the app. When you get paid, and when you win, you get paid instantly as well. New FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, let's go in and look at some more streaming stuff now. We're going to talk category leagues. We're going to look at points and threes up first as the first little combination we're going to. And I do have these Jazz guys at the top. When I was doing this, I was assuming that Colin Sexton, Markkanen, Collins, Kessler were all out, and Sexton is playing. Kessler is as well, although he doesn't really impact the scoring. So I've got Sensabaugh and Juzang there. Just drop them down a little bit on this list. I've got Nick Smith, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who should have a really strong role. Bogdan, even though Kawhi returns, he should start with no Jones and no Powell. I've got Julian Champagny in San Antonio, and then with potential a bunch of absences in Miami again, Duncan Robinson, who seems to be back in full favor from Eric Spoelstra, a really good option for points and threes. I still think Sensabaugh and Juzang are worth looking at in deeper leagues as streamers, but of course the return of Sexton and the random 20 minutes that he's going to play will have an impact on those guys without really much question. But remember, they are playing Toronto. They will want to lose, and we'll see what they do. For assists and steals, well, there are a couple of guys here, the clones of each other that used to play together in Toronto, Davion Mitchell and Jamal Shed. I think that Shed is going to have to see an elevated role. There's no Barrett. There's no Dick, obviously. Quickly is playing. I don't think Quickly plays on Saturday, by the way. And then Davion Mitchell's playing his 37 minutes or so. Both guys, 6 or 7 assists, 2 to 3 steal upside. That's really good value. Jacoby Walter, while you might not think of him as an assist guy, and you shouldn't because he's not, but he's going to get a lot of opportunities to have the ball in his hands. And often, these sort of shooting guard types can just fall their way into 3 or 4 assists and maybe get 2 steals. It's just the minutes here really should work in Walter's favor. I've got Lou Dort there, who's more steals than assists, very clearly. Vince Williams, who is a very, very underrated passer, and he's a good steals guy too, and could see 27 minutes maybe. I hope that minutes restriction gets lifted and he can do that. And the last one there is Brandon Williams, who we saw have a huge game. What do you have? 8 assists and 3 steals last game for Dallas? The problem with him, though, of course, is he's only got 9 games left this season. And if Exum, Washington, Martin, and who's the other one? Jones all play, does he get minutes? Do they run Dinwiddie and Christie and Exum as the point guards? Because they can't play Williams every single game. So I don't know if he's going to play. I do think that it's likely that Exum doesn't play, meaning that Williams probably does. So he is a risky choice, absolutely. But that's what we've got to do sometimes, isn't it? I'd like to get a little bit more information on those Dallas guys. I haven't included Kai Jones in any of these stream options because I don't know that he plays. So my general rule when I'm talking about these streaming options, if anyone is labeled with a questionable or worse injury tag, I'm not going to include them as streaming options because, you got a 50-50 chance or worse that they play, which is not a great way to go about it. Looking at boards and blocks, last game we got a really big one out of Bismack Biyombo. Now, I'm not ready to always get a big one from Bismack Biyombo because the game before, and the 2 games before, and the 3 games before, he did nothing. But they decided to lean into him. Again, if you can predict that, good luck to you, because I've got no idea how they're sort of deciding that, whether it's going to be Sohan, or it's going to be Biyombo, or it's going to be Mamakalishvili. Nothing really makes sense with the Spurs rotation. But Biyombo, at least, we feel good he's going to start. I've got Orlando Robinson on there, and that was before I knew that Jakob Poeltl was out, because I thought they were going to pull everyone's minutes back, but they're pulling Poeltl's minutes back to 0. So this man is probably going to start. John Mobo's out. They've got Boucher and Robinson. Robinson is, I said at some point, I'm going to do it today. I said at some point, Orlando Robinson is going to be my featured thumbnail player at some point for the daily streaming shows. It's today. They've got everyone out, or a lot of guys out. He's the backup. There's no Mobo. He'll start actually in this game, and you're going to have a situation where they're playing against the Jazz. Robinson is going to go, we're going to thumbnail him. I'm going to have Brandon Clark on this list for boards and blocks. And I did have Oscar Tshiebwe there. Now, I probably wouldn't have him there because Kessler is playing. And that means that Filipowski will get backup minutes over Tshiebwe. So take Oscar Tshiebwe off there. I've got KJ Martin on the list. I've got Mason Plumlee on the list as well. Plumlee's value does rise up a little bit here ahead of Tshiebwe. Again, just don't bother with Tshiebwe in this spot because, again, they did rule that Kessler is available. And I wasn't sure that they would. In fact, I thought they wouldn't. And he is. In terms of percentage streams for field goal percentage, I'm going Brandon Clark, Bismack Biyombo, and KJ Martin. Martin will still play his role because John Collins is out. I don't know if they'll start him or Filipowski, but he was shocking in the last game. KJ Martin. I know that sounded like I repeated, but it wasn't a glitch. I just said it twice the same way. KJ Martin is a guy that can help in that category, but it's a little bit of those ones where you hold your nose and go, please, my guy, don't have a stinker. For free throw percentage, Nick Smith, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Bryce Sensabaugh are really good free throw percentage streamers, but you can find a lot of stream guys available in a lot of different spots. The last thing I want to look at is my stream plan for the week. You know that we organize this on the weekly preview show. So in terms of the one slot streams, I do 2 individual stream plans for that. One of them was Karis LeVert into 2 games of Luke Cornett. And then we're going to turn that into 2 games of Davion Mitchell on Friday, Saturday. So that's the plan on that one. LeVert, Cornett, Mitchell. The other one was Terrence Mann into Sam Hauser into Nick Smith Jr. That is the streams we're going for on that 1 slot streaming for Friday, Saturday. In the 2 slot streaming, we had 2 different ways of doing this. If you had a Wizards player, you could hold them for Monday and then drop them after Monday and get extra games in. Or you could just use the spots dropping somebody with a 3-game week and put extra guys in. So we started with a 3-game in fortnight for Karis LeVert and Terrence Mann. And now we're switching it over for guys that are either 30% rostered or below or 45% below on Basketball Monster. And the 2 names I'm using are Donovan Clingan, who's 30% on Yahoo, and Vince Williams, who's like 3% available. And they're the guys we're going to track on the 2-game streaming. And that's for 2 games over the final 3 days of the week on Friday and Sunday. So we get 2 games from those 2 guys in those final 3 days of the week. So they're who we're adding into the streaming plan. And then the last streaming plan thing we'll have to do is on Saturday. Or 2 more, actually. We've got a Saturday one to get a Saturday, Sunday back-to-back for a 2-slot streamer. And that's on if the Hold Wizards plan. And then on the 1-slot stream, we do a singular Sunday stream, which will be the final thing that we track on that. And that, on National Cereal Day, is a preview. Get your best cereal takes down in the chat, in the comments. Get your stream discussions down in the chat as well. Hit the thumb up on the video. Keep everything rolling positively. Keep an eye on your team. Make sure you're making the right moves, staying attuned to the injury information. And guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.